Hi, I'm Jenny. Welcome to my channel, Designs with Paper. On today's card, I used a digital stamp instead of a traditional stamp. So come on, I'll show you how I did that. Thanks for stopping by. The image I used of my Father's Day card was a digital stamp from Tiddly inks. So I'm going to show you how I went from that digi-stamp being on computer to on paper in order for me to color it. Tiddly Inks has a wide variety of digital and traditional stamps, and their images really are just dang cute. When you click the Our Shop link, it pulls up their Etsy page. And I scrolled down to find their boys and men category and opened this digi-set right here. It has 3 stamps in it. It has a truck and a golf club. It also has just the truck and this tree image. The tree image comes with this sentiment and the truck comes with this sentiment here. So once you have found the digital stamp or the digi-stamp that you want, whether it's on Etsy or on the company's own website, you would add it to the cart and then purchase it. I purchased this a couple of years ago and it was through Etsy, so I just used my PayPal to pay for the image on Etsy. And once you've paid for your image or your download, they will the company will send you a link and you can download it to your computer and it will go right into your download folder. A lot of times with these digital images, you will have to unzip the folder. And I have my digital stamps all saved on my computer in a craft file. And here are my Tiddly ink stamps. And a number of different companies make digital stamps. The image I used for my dad's card is this truck, and it's in my folder like 4 times. I don't even know. I just downloaded it a ton of times, I guess. I don't know. And so this is the image I want to use. Now you can just open it up in your picture viewing app, whatever app you're using, and print it right from there. That is not my preferred method. My preferred method is to use Publisher. I am using a PC, and I like Publisher because you can set it up to have no margins. And you do that by going up here to Page Design and using the margin drop down and selecting None. And that allows me to put the image right up against the edge of my page and use my ruler bars to measure how big it is. I also like Publisher because you can stack text boxes and images on top of each other without too much work. I'm not a computer genius. I just know how to do the things I want to do. So in order to get the image onto my Publisher page here, you go to the Insert tab and click the Pictures. Now this Picture tab right here is going to open everything on your computer. And it's just a browse file. And I'm going to change the size of these icons here so that you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to find that truck. And I'm going to click Insert. And it really is that easy. Now the first thing I like to do is to come over here to this Recolor drop down and click Set Transparent Color. And then click this white background here. I do that because I am printing with a laser printer. And if this image has a white background, everything here is going to print in kind of a gray. And I don't like that. So I remove the background image entirely, or the background color entirely. The next thing I do is pull this right up here along the edge of my paper. And you can use your mouse or you can use your arrow keys on your computer. And then I look at my ruler bar up here. Now my card base is going to be 4 1/4 inches tall by 5 1/2 inches wide. I need this to not be 5 1/2 inches, or at the very maximum be 5 1/2 inches. But I also know that I want a border on this card. So I'm going to grab the corner here and pull this in till it's about 5 1/4. And that's going to give me just a little bit of a border on that edge. Now down here, you'll notice it's not the regular 4 inches. You know, a card panel is usually 4 by 5 1/4 or 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 if it's the same size as your card base. And that's okay. If it's a little bit short, I can live with that. I just need it to be shorter than top to bottom and side to side than my card base. Now, you want to make sure that you're pulling on the corners, not the side. If you grab the side, it changes the proportion. And sometimes that's okay. If you want to change the look of something, sometimes that's okay. But I didn't want that. I wanted it to be just how it was drawn. I liked how the illustrator originally drew it. Now, I typically would not print one image on a piece of paper. I would either copy and paste this 4 times, or I would go to my Insert tab and insert some other image to print and color. So to copy and paste it, I'm going to click Copy and Paste. And I'm going to arrange them here on this paper. And using my mouse or my arrow keys, once I get them kind of in the general area, I use my arrow keys because then I can line it up just off the edge of the paper. I don't want the image box right on the edge because my printer could cut something off. So I want to make sure that all of the pieces are inside the paper edge. And now that I've got that on there, all I have to do is send it to my printer. So I go over here to the File tab and the Print tab. And it's going to my computer's going to talk to my printer, and it's going to pull up a preview. And that will allow me to check the edges to make sure that none of my edges are off the page. And then I click Print. Easy peasy. Now I printed this on Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 80-pound cardstock. It's a really nice sturdy cardstock. That is the cardstock I choose for Copic coloring and usually for pencil coloring. It is a thick cardstock, but it feeds through my printer just fine. I've never had a problem with it. But the way that my printer feeds, it pulls it in and then flips it around, so the paper does come out curled. And if that happens, not a huge deal. You can put the paper flat down on your desk and put something heavy on top of it, obviously. Or what I do is cut these images apart into 4 and fold a piece of copy paper in half and stick the quarter sheet inside that half piece of copy paper and run it through my die cut machine. And if it's still a little bit curved, I just add a cardstock shim and run it through that die cut machine again, and it flattens out no problem. So this is how I got the digital stamp onto cardstock all ready to color. So here's one of those panels I printed ready to color, and I've taken a dark green, a kelp green, and a sap green light, I think is the color, Prismacolor pencils, and I'm coloring that truck in. I'm putting the dark green in the shadows that have already been sketched in by the illustrator and pulling those out with the kelp green and then pulling it even farther into the highlight with the sap green. And I've gone over it a couple of times, 3 times I think. The coloring is sped up about 8 times faster than normal. And once I've really got that blended out, I take that dark in again to those shadows to really give it some roundness and some dimension. And once the truck is all colored, I color the windows and the headlights with a really light blue, just for that reflective look, and the chrome, or the bumper and the grille with a silver, and the wheel wells with a dark gray, and I did the dad word in the same shades of green. Here I have my tonic guillotine trimmer and an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock cut in half at 5.5, and I'm going to score it at 4 1/4 to make a top folding landscape card. I'm using my bone folder to score it, and then I'll fold it in half and use my bone folder again to really reinforce that crease to give it a nice clean fold. And I have a huge margin on the top and bottom, which I already knew I was going to have, but not as big on the side. So I've pulled out my Fisker trimmer because I can line up the smallest amount. I think I only cut it down like a 1/16 of an inch or maybe an 1/8 of an inch off one side so that there would be a little bit more of a margin on the sides. And I'm going to back that. First, I'm going to brush that panel off. I noticed when I was trimming it that there was a little bit of colored pencil residue on it still, and you don't want to rub your hand over that. It could smear. So I just took a really light brush and brushed it off. And then I'm going to take this black cardstock. It's just a scrap that was on my table, my desk, and make a little bit of a border around that panel. And I'm pulling my Fiskars out again, or my tonic trimmer out again. The blade on my Fiskars is just a little bit dull, and I need to get a new one. So I'm only using that one when I really need to be precise with the measurement until I can get a new blade for it. And I wasn't really measuring this. That's why I didn't cut it first. I just put the paper on it and then trimmed it down. And now I'm going to mount that panel to the front of the card base. And it will have a larger margin on the top and bottom than it will on the sides, but I'm okay with that. I feel like it balances okay. And because the margins aren't the same, I'm going to flip that card on its side so that I can see the top and the bottom better and make sure that it really is centered good there in that card panel. Once I've got that on there, I'm going to open it up and put a piece of copy paper on the inside of the card so that I have a place to stamp my sentiment and write my message. The sentiment set I'm using is from Tailored Expressions. It's called Dadisms, and it has a bunch of really cute, kind of comical sentiments about dads. And the one I chose says he eats his steak and potatoes with a side of steak and potatoes. And that screams my dad. He is a meat and potatoes kind of guy. In order to make sure I stamped this straight, because it's not a clear stamp, I put a piece of plastic inside my MISTI first and stamped on it to make sure that the stamp was on there straight. Then I didn't have to worry about it being starting over again. And I just took that rag and wiped the lid of my MISTI really carefully. I didn't want to put too much pressure on it. And there we go. Happy Father's Day, Dad.